Thank you. I'm sorry, I have a bit of a cold, so I hope you can all hear me. I'll try to speak as loud as I can. So yeah, I'm that Stine on the sign. And when they asked me if I wanted to speak, I was like, yeah. And then not until later, I noticed that the theme was weird, and I was thinking, there's not really a lot of weird things about me. I'm pretty normal, but then I sort of got to thinking that actually how I got to do what I do, and actually the amount of things I do, and maybe sometimes also how I get my ideas, can maybe be perceived as a little weird. So yeah, I'm here to talk about weird ways to creative career and also ideas, both because of the theme, but also because I think that's the two questions I get asked the most often: how I got to do what I do, and how I get ideas. So it all came together. So where it often gets weird is actually just when I start a presentation, because when people meet each other, they will say their full name and their title, and this is what I'm thinking. Not because I do have a name, but there's this crazy long story. I won't tell you all of the stories because it's early and you'll be sleeping before I'm over it. But this is like the family name, but this is the actual name. Because my grandfather had, I think, 12 brothers or something, and some local priests spelled the last name in 4 different ways. But everyone has been like, oh, we'll pretend nothing has happened and just call us Spedsbjerg for all eternity. And then it wasn't until I got a lot older and everything like got digitalized and things like that I realized my last name is actually Spedsbjerg. So, everyone I knew from before that calls me Spedsbjerg, and now everybody knows me as Spedsbjerg. So there's a lot of confusion just from then. And then we get to the next one. So what do you do? Both doing a speak like this, I need to tell people what I do, but also, when you just meet people. And I can tell them what I do. I'm an illustrator, story writer, I'm a copywriter, I'm a cartoonist, I'm a crochet designer, I'm a concept developer, I'm an author, blah, 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 blah. There's a lot. And that's this year. I mean, if you take all the time that I've been working as a freelancer, it's a lot more. So yeah, it's just like the circus of titles, and it just makes you sound so pretentious if I just start mentioning them all. So what do you do? Oh, let me tell you what I do. And it's all very sort of, yeah, let me tell you about me. Yeah, it's just a lot of titles. And then somebody once told me, but you should just tell the background for what you do. But my background is a shop assistant, a woman's tailor, and a journalist, and I do none of these things. So yeah, I guess my first advice to do what I do is just have 0 confidence in yourself and just take 3 really long educations that you can't use for anything at all. And then get really bored with it and tired of yourself. Eventually, I did reach this point where I really needed some sort of expression that was my own, and maybe do something with my creativity. I was at journalism school at that time, and we have this 1.5 year where you're an intern in different places, and it's just a lot of bosses, a lot of results, a lot of different ways that you have to do things, and a lot of it is fun, and it does give you a lot of self-confidence, like trying out your skills to actual readers and things like that, but it also gets really boring that you can't do your own thing. So I mustered my gut, and I made this illustrated blog in 2008. And I think I only waited 2 or 3 months before I actually showed it to someone. So yeah, a lot of self-confidence at that time. But I think I was kind of lucky that I did make this blog that was a little bit different at a time where now everyone is like, oh, you have a blog, please shut up about it. Because everybody either has one or have had one, or at least had a friend who talks too much about their blog, and we don't want to hear about it anymore. But that time, it was all the rage, and all the medias were like, oh, we should do a top 3 or a top 5 or blog of the week and things like that. And I think because, as far as I know, my blog was the only illustrated blog at that time in Denmark, I did get a pretty large audience all of a sudden. And I hadn't really thought about it. It was only supposed to be a year that I did this blog, but then I decided to keep doing it. And when journalism school ended, it gave me my first job. I was headhunted to do advertising. And there was there was one job for like an entire school of people who just graduated to do newsletters for something with hair wax or something like that. So, any job where I didn't have to wipe someone's butt, I was definitely on it. So I got into advertising. I think I was for like 4 years, but sometimes did a little illustration work on the side and then kept working on my blog and working with these creative things. But you learn a lot from advertising, and a lot of it is really fun, but there's these so many bosses in advertising, both in the agencies but also from the client side. Just so many people in charge of everything that like need to put their stamp on things so they can like feel like they were a part of it too. So just like elephants in boots, just squashing all over all your project and ideas, which is what they're hired to do. So I guess it's fine, but you know, to sensitive little creative people, it got a lot in the end. So I got enough of it and quit my job without really having a plan for what I was actually going to do. Halfway spontaneous, but yeah. A lot of conflicts with my boss at that time, and just more and more things were just working with my blog and just on their way, as you can tell from this image of me and my chicken wagon. But things were just there where I was lucky because I had that audience. That also meant that I actually had a rather large network that I could say, hey, I quit my job, and I thought, oh, they're going to be like, oh, you'll do fine, but a lot of those people actually had companies or knew other people and things like that. So it actually turned out to be the greatest networking thing I had ever done to myself. So things just started coming along in that way. I just do all these weird things that you saw. I'm not sure how it actually happened there. That's the very striking image. Not sure how I got there. So it's quite hard to ask a question when people say, I want to do what you do. How do you do that? Okay, yeah. Just take 27 years of not believing in yourself and then do everything at once. So that's advice number one. The second thing is sort of about getting ideas, which I guess should mean that I maybe talk a little bit about creativity first and how I perceive it, because I don't know, in Denmark, I don't know if it's a worldwide thing, but in Denmark, like people who have these crafty blogs call themselves creative bloggers. And there's nothing wrong with that, but I think it's the wrong perception of creativity, because it's actually most of the time just taking a recipe and doing what it says there, and that's not at least how I perceive creativity. So I think I think of creativity as a spark. It's something intuitive, it's something within you that's like a spark that's just waiting to really catch fire. That's the creative part, that's the idea part, and then after that you put on your knowledge and your experience and your craft and whatever you have to make it into a product or something useful if it's work. Sometimes it's just fun to just have the spark, it's not necessarily anything else. But it's just to tell you that I will be focusing on how to get the spark there, and then you can apply the rest of it, because yeah, I don't think my ideas will make, oh, it did work. Sorry, I didn't know I was just going to push again. Well, now we know. So yeah, I'll definitely be focusing on the spark bit of it here. But also a couple of great advices I got. The first one is from one of the many, many creative directors I have encountered. But definitely the best one, who had this theory of the drawers. I'm speaking about it like it's magic. Maybe it's something really well known. I have no idea, because I have no background to actually do what I do. So forgive me if you all know it. But he said, sometimes the first idea you get is actually the best idea, but you won't know until you've opened the rest of the drawers to check what's in them. So I think what is something that really made a difference for me, the whole always just get many ideas, just get a shitload of ideas. Even if after 50 ideas you think, there's nothing here, I can't use it. There is. Go back and check. There is something there, but just keep getting a lot of them, because even though the first one is really funny, you don't know if number 10 is like 10 times as funny. Okay, so I don't really know Ernst Hemingway, obviously. But he's very, I don't know if he actually said it, but everyone quotes him for saying, write drunk, edit sober. And I think when it comes to creativity, the way to interpret that is, don't try and edit yourself while you're actually getting the ideas, while you're actually trying to ignite that spark. Because if you just stop yourself and go, oh, no, I can't think that. And not saying that the famous Danish yes hat, I really hope that is not an international phenomenon, where you have to say yes to everything when you get ideas, because that's that makes no sense. Why on earth would you do that and just spend time going, yes, let's get into your horrible idea? That's not what I'm saying, but but then just say, yeah, I'm not sure I'm feeling that, and then move on with it. Don't try and edit and shape it while you're getting it. Just get all those drawers open and then edit them afterwards. I think those two advices are the ones that has helped me the most. And I think most of my advices will make me sound like a really cranky old lady. So I try to make up with cute pictures. I think the first one is, I guess most of you, since you're here at Creative Mornings, you do deal with creativity somehow. But a lot of people who don't work with it just imagine like people running on beaches or showering themselves with balloons to get all these weird ideas. But ideas come when you ask them to come. They get them when you focus, when you're concentrated on getting them, when you just decide, I'm going to focus on getting ideas. That's when you get ideas. It's not when you're flying in a hot air balloon. Not to say you can't have ideas when you're flying in a hot air balloon, but I just think it's such a misunderstanding of making creativity this magical thing that needs all these weird elements and walls with plastic brains and fun toys to shower around in. And you don't have to be at a desk. You can do it from your bed, and you can do it in the balloon room, but it doesn't really matter. If you have a balloon room, I guess. Another thing I find really useful, but this is mostly for if you get stuck, is like, well, obviously not buying a cheetah, but just trying to get out and walk, like they're doing. Just see how much fun they're having. But just, the changing of the scenery, take a walk, but still keep the focus. Keep the focus on whatever you're trying to accomplish with the whole creative thing. It really gives something else when you go out and take a walk and just get just the change of scenery, just walking through a door, but not the whole, let's go out and see what the world has to give, because the world will not give you anything, but something different does happen in a brain when you just walk out into different surroundings, I feel. The next one is a little bit weird to explain. I don't know if it works for other people, but sometimes if I'm not really sure how to get an idea, sometimes it helps to pretend to be someone else. It can be like, what would my mom do if she was to solve this? And obviously I do not want to solve it the way my mom would. But it's again about, getting that spark flowing, because sometimes you think, what would your mom do? And you start laughing at things, and oh God, that would be so typical of her. But then maybe think about her opposite. What would they do? And all of a sudden you've just opened a lot of ways into what you're actually doing. And you can just, it's sort of like when you have a visitor over, when you sort of borrow their eyes to look at your home, you can be like, God, I'm a hoarder. I never knew. but it's sometimes like you can borrow other people's eyes or minds. This way, I don't know if it would work for everyone, but sometimes it can also be like, when I was in journalism school, I often used Søren Ryge, who is this Danish television reporter who only talks about gardens and farmers, and fruit. And chickens maybe sometimes, but all this agricultural thing. But whenever we had an assignment that I just hated, I would just think, what would he do here? Not because I wanted to be him, but in journalism school is a lot of like attack journalism, numbers, things, and it's like, okay, if somebody forced him to do this, he would make something really mellow and cozy out of this. So what would he do here? And it just helped me get some ideas where I wasn't like overwhelmed with the whole, let's be angry journalists changing the world thing. Which makes me sound a little uncool, because I guess I should be wanting to change the world as a journalist, but I didn't really want to. So yeah, it really helped me to be Søren Ryge. The next one might only work if you're a big sister. I can't call it the angry old lady, which is a lot of times when people have like this creative project, they'll look, how did other people do it, the ones that did it the best? And you look at it and you get this crazy performance anxiety, already thinking, but I don't have that idea, I can't do that. But I found out the reverse really works for me. At least a lot in advertising, like going into ads of the world and finding the ads for like the area I was going to look at, and just think, oh my God, this is bad. This is horrible. Why are people loving this? This makes no sense. And then just actually apply that angry old lady, because I think most of us have a voice inside that goes, I could have done that a little bit better. They should have asked me. But actually then think, okay, how? How would you have done this better? And thinking about that. And sometimes just that would like ignite some ideas in that area. But sometimes also getting these ideas or just getting myself really worked up as a know-it-all and then actually think, okay, so what are the basic things? Is it because you're tired that most people use humor in this area where you actually think maybe it's time someone look at it more serious? Okay, that's another way of going into this. So yeah, being an angry old lady, I guess you have to be it at heart to really make it work, but I think a lot of us has a little bit of a know-it-all that can maybe help you get into it can actually be useful. I think it's something that people tell you not to have when you're working as a creative because it's about being open and positive, but if you're not really that person at heart, why not just use, your cranky old side and get some of it done? I made some great advertising for the opera in Aarhus on that background because everybody did these horrible things and it really got me going, but that's also an energy you can feed on when you're actually working with creative things. I think I'm speaking too fast. I hope it's okay that I might end early. I hate that there's a timer on there. It distracts me a little bit. And another thing I do is make weird lists. This is especially if I'm really, really stuck in the way where I go mostly things with, I'm doing a series of children's book for a publisher and do whatever you want. And that's like the hardest brief you can get because there's nothing to grab onto, there's nothing to hold on to, but I make weird lists and then I don't know, it just does something great to my brain. It can be which ones of your friends would do the best pet and then actually rate them and think about why. Why on earth would Thomas be a great hamster? Why Camilla might be a little bit too aggressive? And I know it sounds really weird, but it does take your mind off of being stuck and weird things. And I also, I try to make, I've got an idea for the first children's book, but I had to make a second one at the same time. And I tried making these lists of things that embarrassed me when I was a kid where I felt it was really unjustful. And I remember this time I got stuck in a tree and I didn't have the guts to climb down and it was really stupid and I knew it. I was sitting up there thinking this is the most stupid thing in the world. But I was so high up so people couldn't just, carry me down, and all the grown-ups where I grew up in the countryside were like, you can get up, you can get down. And they were just so angry with me and they just didn't feel my pain and my fear. And then I remembered that I actually, how many cats I've pulled down from trees that's done the exact same things where I, even as a kid, were like, oh, you stupid cat, would you get down? And I don't know, somehow these things actually led to the idea of the second kids book that will have a girl and a cat stuck in a tree that can't get down and won't admit it. So I know it's a bit of a weird way, but you can always make lists because you don't have to be creative to make these lists. But often when you do them, it's kind of the same thing as getting ideas when you make lists for things that actually can't be listed, like which one of your friends would make the best pet, which animals in the zoo would make for the better dancer. Just things like that because it's not really there. None of the animals at the zoo would make great dancers whatsoever. They would be horrible. You couldn't even dress them for it. So it does force it doesn't feel like getting ideas and being creative, but it does sort of get your brain into that mode where you sort of have fun with it. Because I also think having fun with it and having that easy flow of ideas is where you get your good ideas. So a lot of this is just how to get there. I don't think any of these things, well, maybe except for the listing thing, actually get you any finished ideas, but they get your brain maybe going into the right direction. And it does take some time, but once you're there and you're in that flow, that's like, if you love doing creative things, that's like the best place to be in the world. And it also kind of feels like painful not to be at that place. Someone said, do what you love and you don't have to work another day for the rest of your life, which is bollocks because I've done made all my hobbies into my work and now it's just what I think is fun feels like work. So it's kind of bollocks, but it's really fun work. That's the good part, I guess. And I think my last advice would be have a little faith in yourself, because also just remember that it takes time. all the good ideas that you see just always seem so effortless and easy, and they are once you're in a flow and you're lucky. But sometimes, you know, people spend 8 days just getting to be in that flow because there was this blockage, or there were all these creative directors hammering on the door, or you were just spending 27 years going, oh, I can't do that, I'm not good enough. So yeah, well, if you want to, you can believe in God too, because I found a picture of, I think he's something religious, but mostly just believe in yourself, and then just get like a ton of ideas. Just get really, really many ideas. And a lot of the time when you have pretty low self-esteem, you'll think, I have nothing. But then leave it and go back, and you have like, I have 50 ideas. Maybe I should start like looking at them again. And usually you will find something if you sort of have faith that it will come if you just keep pushing. So yeah, I had a lot of slides, but I'm actually already done now. So I hope you have some questions. And if you're too embarrassed to ask them now, I think I'm at Stine Spedsbjerg on most social media, so you're welcome to write me or tag me or anything.